Hey, shalom, shalom, Israel. In pro Shabbaton, going into Shabbat, relaxing here. And just thought I would share a few of my thoughts. And, there's been a lot of bad things bad doctrines we've been taught over the years. I mean, I would really like to know what people are interested in hearing. I don't know, maybe you could drop a suggestion if you want me to speak on some kind of a subject and do the best I can. Just like any doctor, you probably should get a second opinion. There's some places that don't believe in that, but yeah, you should always get a second opinion. One of the things is that we've been taught a lot of bad doctrines in the area of, the externals, which kind of is part of the reason I do this, because once a week I like to do this. I instituted it, started last week, 25 years. Hopeless case, I guess. But that's one of the reasons I do this, is because, sometimes I like to rub the puppy's nose in the mess it's made out of things. Where personal preferences become transgressions in the eyes of some people. Like women wearing pants, men wearing shorts, as long as they're below the knee, of course. Teachings that you should have your toes covered, you wear sandals, you're worldly, or if you're Amish, you have a hay baler that ties the string on the bale, then you're worldly. Or you got too many windows in your house, and if you're Amish, that's worldly. Zippers instead of buttons, worldly, that kind of thing. Meanwhile, we all tithe in our mint and our anise, and we ignore the weightier matters of the Torah, which is to love mercy and also to do justice. Not leaving the one undone while you do the other. Amazing what you do is always grandstand out there as if you're advertising for some kind of personal acceptance and approval. Whereas people that do things in secret, Yah sees them in secret. And he judges everything, the quick and the dead. Yep. Pants. Does somebody want to hear something about women wearing pants today? Because that's been, what is it? A woman shall not put on a man's garment. Okay. What the hell does that mean today? Okay. Because in the late Bronze Age, both the male and the female wore dresses, pretty much. Their inner garment, the tallit, was the same. Everything. What was the defining difference between a male garment and a female garment? It wasn't the cut of cloth. Despite what the Pentecostals and the Apostolics and the, the brown-nosing highbrowers want to tell you, is that the difference is not the what you see in the pattern of the cloth as far as how it's cut. If that was the case, hell, I got a list of grievances right now, being in the tabernacle, focusing on Yah, and some big butt walks by with half of the dress stuffed up in the crack, or there's so much butt there that you can't help but see the stage or whatever, People wrapped tighter than a $50 bill, flaunting and accentuating everything. Yeah. So, no, in the late Bronze Age, people didn't wear pants. As a matter of fact, they wore girdles too, male and female. A female wore a girdle and a male wore a girdle, both of them. Okay? They had the same function, basically. A girdle was basically a money belt. It was contained a compartment where they could put things like gold coins, silver coins. They could put maybe their teraphim, their small teraphim, if they were doing some type of ancestral worship or whatever, family ancestral thing, like Gideon, who was never rebuked for it, by the way. Anyway, yeah. So, what you have here is you have a difference in, paradigm, a difference in, comprehension, and a difference in education. People have a tendency to run with their biases, their indoctrination, without doing any research at all, or very little research, just enough to, make a fool out of themselves. But what was it? The girdle was one of the defining characteristics of the difference between a man and a woman in their way of dress. Okay? A man shall not put on a woman's clothing, for all that do so are an abomination in the eyes of Yahweh, and likewise the other way around. But it wasn't pants, it wasn't shorts, it wasn't sandals. As a matter of fact, both male and female wore predominantly some form of head covering for the most part. Male priests wore mikvahs, and the high priest wore a turban, which is also called a mitzvahnet, which I want to get into that again too. I want to do some content on the hair and head coverings again. I want to condense it down a little more because the last run with it was 3 hours worth of, almost 3 hours worth of videos, which were commented by several people I was in association with. That was the best teachings and information sharing I've ever heard on subject matter, hands down. So, anyway, so it was the girdle. A woman was forbidden in late Bronze Age, in Moses' time when the law was written, when the understanding and the definition of what was acceptable for a woman or a man to wear was made. Not when we came along paddling our canoe across the Atlantic or, got here some other way. And then we picked up the white man's religion. The new children of Israel, right? Don't know anything about the culture, don't know anything about anything. They're just trying to do damage control and restoration of something they were never a part of culturally. And that's why we are in such a mess today. Because some people have understanding, some do not. Some people have an agenda, some don't. So, anyway, a woman was forbidden to wear a leather girdle, a girdle made out of camel's hide or ox hide or some type of leather. They were forbidden. That was only allowed by men to wear. And the reason men wore leather girdles was, one, so as to girt up their loins so that they could run into battle. Okay? And upon that leather girdle they would carry instruments of war, daggers, Sakari daggers, slings, pouches with their stones in it, extra spearheads, arrowheads, I don't know. Anything to do with war. Or to strap on some type of bronze sword. That's an abomination. So, if we're going to say, the Torah always goes all the way back to Genesis, and you want to play that game, let's go at least as far back as Moses and see that I dropped something. And see that today the equivalent of that would be, since we're so concerned about women not abominating themselves today, by today's standards, of course, if we're going to compare it to what Moses said and we're going to uphold the law to the letter, for a woman to strap on a Glock 9mm pistol to her side, in the eyes of Yahweh, by that standard, would be an abomination. But nobody wants to make any adjustments to the Torah now, do they? Hey, girls, you're just going to have to carry it in your purse. The idea was women were supposed to be protected, not be the protector. I know we live in a different time, and that's fine, but don't say that it's kadosh with the Torah when it isn't. You can make up your own doctrines, but you cannot make up your own facts. The facts are here. So, yeah. Another thing about Israelite clothing was that men, their clothing often has patterns of colors that women didn't wear. Even in the Arab world today, it's reminiscent of the book of Genesis, where Ribkah made Isaac a coat of many colors. Today, in the Arab world, that same color pattern is worn in the areas where institutions aren't corrupted, in the Arab world, where men and women still pretty much wear dresses in the Arab world. They have the same pattern of colors and sequence of colors in their garments for males, which is called the coat of 7 collars, or the garment of 7 collars. It's the same definition, the same colors, the same garment. Okay, didn't say Cabela's on the the zipper handle. Well, I guess we're off to a good start tonight, aren't we? Anyway, so yeah, that was the big thing about clothing. The more important thing about clothing was the issue of making yourself out to appear as though you are not. In other words, dressing in such a way, which way it was, however you made a dress look, because like I said, they both basically wore what we would call today dresses or some form of dress in the English language. Okay? Caboose, whatever. So, anyway, the garments today, would be, I lost my train of thought there. The garments today, to try to compare them to the late Bronze Age, is erroneous. Because in the uncorrupted world today, which is pretty much the Arab world, they still wear dresses. and nobody wore pants. They did wear like an undergarment, which they could wear in their own private domicile, whether they were male or female. But when they went out in public, they had to dress and appear as a man or a woman. One of the things that they did, even in the Canaanite religion, is that some of the worship of some of their gods required that they appear as, if they're men, that they appear as a woman, or if they're a woman, that they appear as a man. So the underlying point of that being is that to dress in an effort to deceive or to beguile or to trick someone into thinking you might be another person. You might be a female when you're a male. Isn't that the problem we have today? Is that not, I mean, now we know why it was written. It wasn't written because nobody wanted you to wear Levi's, Strauss, or Wranglers, or whatever, no matter what sex you was. Those things didn't exist back then, so let's cut through this shit. All right? Cut through the crap. Let's talk some sense here, okay? For once in your life, let's talk some sense, okay? But to wear clothing in an effort to deceive, okay, and to beguile somebody, to appear as though you're not. This is the whole point. And you read about that. And it was associated with paganism, what they call today. And that word's really overused. Paganism is really just country religion, okay? Just leave it at that. Some people call it heathenism, barbarianism, whatever ism, stupidism. A lot of that. That's got to be the biggest religion on the planet. Well, anyway, I probably already said enough to run a bunch of people off. Already done enough probably to run a bunch of people off, and that's just fine. Go away. Have fun. Be at peace, as they always told me. So, and I am. Thank you. Ladyboys, drag queens. That's what is being disclosed to you in the Torah, in Leviticus, Deuteronomy. So that's all I have today on clothing. I would like to know if anybody wants to hear anything any more in depth on the subject matter. I'm going to do this actually more in depth with a lot more study and research, and being that it's kind of uninspired to have some man teach you something, and then you go and you share that information and teach it. You're not inspired by Yah, but you can go read something that some man says. Don't tell people or give credit for your sources, and then you can say, this is what I learned from Yah. I hear that shit all the time. I've heard that for God my whole life. It's called plagiarism. It must be too long of a word for most people to really bother to look up for the definition. It means borrowing from your neighbor without really asking, or borrowing from your neighbor without asking, and then disclose that information in a sequential order as you learned it, and then you basically say, oh, well, God told me, or Yah told me, or Yahweh told me, or whatever. Y'all are funny. How do you understand what you read? The man said, how can I except some man teach me? Okay? Too much pride, you know. But in the meantime, those of us who know will burn the midnight oil. We will study. We will hear a whole matter. We will consider what is spoken. We will put it all together, and we will come to at least a sane conclusion, something that we can nail down, that we don't end up shitting all over ourselves because we can't live up to the things that we teach and the things that come out of our mouth. Yeah. Right. Anyway, here's one for you, and I'll leave you with this. Inquiring minds want to know, right? In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, somewhere in there, it says that a man, here we go. It says that a woman's hair was given for her, or given to her for a covering. Go search out what that means. That's another subject right there, hair coverings. The proper translation of that would be, for a woman's hair was given her instead of a testicle. Think on that for a little while. I'll get back with you. Shalom.